What's up, moviegoers? Welcome to the Marchio podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. In today's episode, I'm talking about Scream 3, directed by Wes Craven, written by Ehren Kruger, and starring David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox Arquette, Patrick Dempsey, Scott Foley, Lance Hendrickson, Jesse McCartney, and Parker Posey. Now, here's the amazing thing about Scream 3. This was supposed to be the last movie completing its trilogy, which is why the tagline of the movie states, "The most terrifying scream is always the last." Now, the movie takes place 3 years after the events of the previous movie, Scream 2, and we follow Sidney Prescott, who has gone into a self-imposed isolation of all the events that's occurred in the events of Scream 1 and 2. Now, but she's drawn into Hollywood after a new Ghostface killing happens, and that these killings happen within the film Stab 3, which is a play on of the events that are happening in the movie. Now, while Scream 3 is a horror movie, some of the horror and gore aspect is toned down because of the Columbine High School massacre that happened in April of 1999. And with that, more so of a comedy element is given into this movie. Now, here's the thing. This movie was really, really slow moving at times. Even though it's 117 minutes long, the budget was $40 million, and it did gross $161 million. So the good thing is that it did make money, but it wasn't received as well as the first two movies. And I feel like I know why it wasn't well received. And that's because Kevin Williamson didn't come back to write the movie, and Ehren Kruger was given the writing duties. The interesting factor is that Ehren Kruger did throw out most of Kevin Williamson's notes for Scream 3, and I guess that made him its own thing, which was a bad thing to do. But when you have Wes Craven directing a movie, you know it's still going to be good somewhat. Now, the thing is that I didn't like the twist in this movie at all. I was curious to see who the killer was, why the killer was doing what they were doing. And when you find out who the killer is and why they're doing it, and, you know, how so they're connected to Sidney Prescott throughout these whole things, and how this one character started the whole murder from the first film up until now, was different. It was interesting, but it could have been, like I said, executed a little bit differently. The scares are not there. The movie's not, doesn't feel like a Scream movie, but we get to see David Arquette, Neve Campbell, and Courtney Cox come back, which is great, along with Patrick Dempsey and Scott Foley in the roles of other characters. And like I said, I don't want to give too much away about Scream 3, but if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about and what the twist is. It could have been done better, and this is where the movie should have ended, and it should have stopped. But the thing is that Scream 3 was greenlit with a budget of $40 million, as I stated, and it was a significant increase over the budgets of Scream 1, which was $15 million, and Scream 2, which was $24 million. So as these movies were getting made, the budget was increasing. Kevin Williamson's involvement had been contracted while selling his Scream script, to which he had attached 2 5-page outlines for potential sequels as a way for people to buy a horror movie franchise. Now, basically, like I said, he would entice buyers with the prospect of purchasing these, and rather than a single script. Craven, too, had to be contracted for 2 potential sequels following a successful test screening of Scream, and he returned to direct the third installment. So it sounds like Wes Craven wasn't going to return after the second movie, but the way the audience reacted to it, and the way he loves directing, as he said in one of his interviews for the Scream movie, he came back, he directed it. So there was consideration to see if this movie should be made or not after the Columbine High School massacre that happened in April of 1999. The media wanted to pin it on video games and certain areas of society, and how the audience would feel in certain things, and basically Scream 3 was one of those caveats where, okay, it's a violent movie, it's gore, let's just blame it and pin it on something like this of a horror movie. Basically, they had no other thing to do. There's no way anything like this, or an incident of that horrible day, could say that, oh, Scream 3 would be like that as well. And it did change the dynamic of the movie, because they did take out a lot of killings, they did take out gore. There are some plot holes that as you watch it, you don't understand what's going on because of that, which makes it interesting to see even more. certain characters die, and then all of a sudden it cuts to a different scene, and then all of a sudden a comedic element is added to it. David Arquette was definitely given a more comedic lines, because some of the stuff he says in the third one, you don't really see his character saying it in the first or second movie. Even Courtney Cox's character does the same thing. Now, the movie's ending was, interesting, so to say, because the original ending consisted of a certain character easily defeating another, which led to an early morning scene and police arriving, and then into the final scene of Sydney in her home. Test audiences did not like this, so they reshot the movie in January of 2000. Now, mind you, the movie was getting released in February of 2000, so they had to do a quick turnaround really fast and had to get Neve Campbell back to do reshoots. And I'm pretty sure that's why the budget bloomed to $40 million. When you have a budget of $15 million for the first movie and $24 million for the second movie, it goes to show that, okay, we're putting a lot of money into this, and, can we actually get it done? So while the movie did, somewhat of it was a hit, it didn't, reach that global status of, crossing that $100 million mark. It only grossed $89 million in the United States and grossed $161 million worldwide. Much so very less than the first movie and the second movie. And it shows. And it goes to show that people didn't like this third Scream movie at all. I didn't like it at all. It could have been done better. But seeing Wes Craven return was good. Seeing the cast return was good. The only factor is that if Kevin Williamson returned to write this movie, I think it would have been a fitting end to a trilogy that of a horror movie that's all you need is 3 movies and that's it. So let me know in the comment section below, do you think Scream 3 should have been the last one in the franchise? And do you think that Kevin Williamson not returning to write this movie really hurt this movie? And taking out the gore factor and the horror factor and putting in comedy elements hurt this movie more? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm really curious to hear what you think. And stay tuned to the next episode of the Marchio Podcast, where I will be talking about Scream 4. And be sure you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for new videos and new podcast episodes on the Marchio Productions YouTube page. And follow Marchio Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And follow me, Anthony, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at misterfilmstock. And follow the Marchio Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll leave a link to all the social media accounts in the description box below. You can check it out and follow along. All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. I'm your host, Anthony. Thanks for tuning in.
Think again. It's your turn to scream.